Hi, everyone. Welcome to Basic Binges, part of Nom Talk Network. On the show, we review the latest shows while eating and drinking our favorite snacks and drinks. If you're watching live, don't forget to redeem those channel points. Remember, be kind because, just be kind, please. I appreciate you. But I'm your host, Erric Ramirez, and I would love to welcome my guests, Julie, JP, and Kyle. Thank you guys so much for being here. Also want to say for everybody out there, since this is the first cast we've had this month, happy Pride, everybody. Congratulations. We're here. Julie, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there. And what are you snacking and drinking on?
Hi, I'm Julie. Happy Pride from me as well. Okay, so there wasn't really a lot of food featured in this episode, so I thought I'd be real honey with it, and I got some I'm really proud of this. I got some dots and bubbles. Just bubbly drink. It's an Olipop. It's a Barbie Olipop, by the way, which I didn't even know they made. So
you should have got Blue Blade.
I guess so. I don't know. It looked fun, so I picked that one out. But yeah, and then I have some grilled cheese and some Indian food for like dinner, or a cheese toasty as they would call it in the UK.
Very good. No, that's right on theme with the bubble and the dot. We are discussing Doctor Who's 5th episode, The Dot and the Bubble. I'm having Fun Dip.
Nice.
Because wasn't this episode fun? And then also I'm having my normal Voodoo Ranger because like you have to for this episode. But no, also your bubbly drink is on the like theme of like Easter colors, like those lighter colors.
Yeah, so, the pastels. That's what I was thinking.
So very good. Thank you for being here, Julie. Kyle, what are you snacking and drinking on tonight?
So I didn't get the punny. I instead opted for bougie because there's nothing more bougie than a bunch of pastels, and there's nothing more bougie than the good people at Fine Time. But I got spicy tuna roll sushi because that's my happy place, and it's too bougie for me. Like I was sitting there going, it's too bougie, too delicious, but I had to because I haven't eaten since this morning. And then I also have my traditional Coca-Cola, because that's what I do. I'm all about tradition. And my rainbow hat that my mom got me for my birthday. So
nice. Well, thank you for being here, but also very on trend because I feel the people of this world would have just eaten sushi, like high-end sushi, just based off of who they were.
This is not
sushi. But thank you so much for being here. And then JP, what are you snacking and drinking with us tonight?
Hi, I'm JP Rapozo. As you can see, I have my sweatshirt that reminds me of the Doctor Who scarf. So I had to wear that for tonight's episode. Thanks for having me, guys. And my bubble is going to be Bud Light because it's Gay Pride Month, Dylan Mulvaney, hey. And then I had to think hard about this one. My options were very limited. So I went with Flamin' Hot Cheetos because I feel like this conversation about this episode is going to get spicy.
At least I hope it gets spicy. It should get spicy. There's a lot to unpack here. And now that I've eaten some of my Fun Dip, which I forget is very, very drying to the throat. Thank you, Nom Talk Network, for redeeming Hydrate. So cheers, everybody, before we get into this long conversation. All right. So before we start, I do want to mention to everybody out there that we are, like I said before, reviewing episode 5 of the new Doctor Who on Disney Plus, The Dot and the Bubble. But also, I do not want you to forget that we are still fundraising for the Trevor Project, which is still a very great cause. And in the month that we're in, please try to support, give feedback. Any support you can give to any charity is very good, but this is the one that we're supporting now. But let's get into this, guys. So The Dot and the Bubble before we start out, Russell T. Davis himself, who wrote this episode and obviously directed it and is showrunner this season, described this episode as kind of stepping into like a little bit of like the Black Mirror territory, which I could very much see. So the setting for this is very much far future, gated community, which we do have gated communities right now, but like far future gated community where vapid, snobby youths are being like systematically, I mean, they're being eaten. So that's the food, and we're just not cannibals yet, apparently. So that's why we bring that food to our nom today. But they're being eaten alive by giant slugs that we kind of find out like 20 minutes into the episode. But this episode is not a very doctor and companion heavy episode either. This episode, we follow Lindy Pepper Bean. She is in between 17 and 27, what we're told. We don't know her actual age. But this community is pretty much social media, rich kids who live in their own mind frame and don't think of anybody else. So they wake up and the first thing they say is dot, which is a little like ball bearing that flies above their head, and then they say bubble, and they just see their whole Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat feed circled around them, kind of like what you see behind me, and they just talk to their friends. Ruby starts off the day waking up, talking to her friends. They tell her to get up. She brushes her teeth. The doctor says she doesn't have to pee because she hasn't peed in 3 days, which is kind of weird. And then she walks to work, and the entire time she's walking to work, this bubble is just telling her, go forward, turn left, turn right, because she has no prospect of the outside world. In doing this, we see our first glimpse of horror when the bubble tells her to turn left and then turn right and then turn right again, because she's walking back by a person's feet that we see that's getting eaten by one of these slugs. Mm-hmm. She gets to work, and what she does is tech, pretty much. They just do calculations, and what I'm guessing from what she said. And she's sitting there, and then is our first cue of Doctor Who. The Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, pops up and says, hey, you're in danger, girl. Like, tell me what's going on. And the moment he pops up, she gets this look on her face, like, ugh. And he's trying to explain to her anything. And then even the signs around him are like in red all around him, like this is not proper, anything like that. And she's not listening to anything he says. So she shoves him to the side. Then Ruby Sunday pops up, obviously, this side. Ruby Sunday pops up in the yellow and the pastels and everything like that. And she's able to say that she works for the company that she works for. And she just wants to get a little bit of feedback and everything like that, and starts a conversation. So I'm going to pause here. What did you guys think of the start of this episode that yet again, because now it's 2 episodes that the Doctor hasn't been prominent in? What did you think of the beginning of this episode and it being kind of like a Blink episode and stuff like that, of like bringing somebody else in to push the story along? We'll start with you on one, Julie. What did you think of the start of this?
That's a good point you brought up Blink, because I was trying to think of some other episodes that this reminded me of, and there definitely were some. That was for sure one of them. But yeah, I mean, I always find these like technology episodes interesting. Definitely a strong opening, because it got me like curious right away. And also we were chatting about this earlier before we had started about how it's so whenever like sci-fi kind of does a thing about how technology has gone too far, it's always like terrifying to me, because like I feel like, you know, we're never really that far off from it. So like immediately in the episode, you already get that sense of like, whoa, like she literally has to have this bubble tell her where to go and stuff like that. So I definitely think it was like definitely a strong opening. It caught my attention, and I was like, okay, I gotta see where this goes, because yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you, because honestly, like this episode started and I was like, we're probably not too far off from that, which is kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Right.
But like everything was going along, whatever, and then we got to the point with the doctor and everything. Kyle, what were your thoughts on the start of this episode?
So you guys are talking about how we're not too far away from having the bubble constantly, and I was on my phone heading home, and I was going across the street to catch my bus, and I was not looking where I was going, and neither was the child who was eating his cotton candy, and he slammed into me, and we slammed into each other, and I got covered in his cotton candy because I wasn't paying attention outside of my bubble. So, if you want to explanation of how far we are. And to be fair, the kid apologized and he was fine. I was just like, "Are you okay?" I mean, I don't care that the front of my pants are covered in sugar. I just want to make sure you're okay. But I thought it was a good episode. I thought it was a solid beginning. I really like these subtle episodes that Russell T Davies does. Like the minute that I saw the feet, I was like, okay, something good's gonna happen. Something dark, something spooky. Although I knew that there was something unsettling about all the pastel people and about all of the really happy people. It's giving Stepford, it's giving Valley of the Dolls. And honestly, I was explaining this to our producer, Steph. When you're surrounded by there's just something very creepy about that big group of people on the bubble. I reminded me when I went to Kansas and all the people on the plane were very white, and that just made me really uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely does, and we are going to get to that point once we finish explaining this episode, what you just mentioned, because that is a very valid point. JP, I know you haven't caught up on the previous episodes of the season, and this is a standalone episode. What did you think of this episode coming into the new Doctor? What were your thoughts?
Honestly, I have not watched the last season with Jodie. I tried into it on the first episode, could not get into it. I tried my hardest, so I feel like I need to get back into it only because of this episode. Even though it's a standalone episode, I do feel as if this is going to probably be one of the saving graces of this entire series. I do feel like this episode is going to go down in history, like Blink and like a few of the other episodes that we have seen in previous Doctors. This is going to be so great. The reason why I couldn't get into the Jodie season was because there was a lot going on in that first episode. Let's be real. There was too much going on. I could not follow it. And Doctor Who has the history of doing exactly that. They introduce too many characters, introduce in too many things going on in one episode, and it's hard to follow. And they don't always have the best reputation of tying up the loose ends at the end of the episode. This one did. It had a lot going on. I was very impressed at how the writer actually was able to navigate this. And as the whole bubble experience was happening at the very beginning in the opening image in Act One, you definitely got a sense of this world and what we were jumping into and what we were committing to as the audience. And I think that was very important. And with that said, I did with the pastel people. I talked to producer Stephanie a little bit before this episode. I was highly suspicious. I was like, there is something good about this. I latched onto it right away, especially as an actor. I'm like, they are going to navigate this in a way I don't think I am expecting, because honestly, I did read all the social media posts that this episode was resembling Black Mirror. So I was kind of thinking, that episode on Black Mirror where it's like, you have to be nice to everybody and you get points. And once you start losing points, you start losing like access to things. You start losing access to your money. I thought it was going to be like that. And I was kind of like, So it took me a little while to get into it, but once he actually locked me in, I was so good to go. And yeah.
No, I completely am right with you, because I got the Black Mirror right away. And I was like, okay, like, are they just going to stem along with, what is her name? Jessica Chastain, I believe it was in like the nice episode where you took pictures and people voted for you and the higher standing, whatever. I thought it was very much along that. But let's continue. So as Lindy Pepperbean is at work, like I said, Ruby Sunday pops up in this image and she doesn't shoo her away, and she lets her ask questions about, hey, you work with 6 people. can you like just like drop your bubble really quick to make sure like the 6 people that are in the same office with you are there? She was like, no, like, why would I do that? Like, all I do is work for 2 hours because, yet again, the richest people got to live on this planet and they only work 2 hours and then they party for the next 22 hours or however long. Which, please give me that. But she says that she refuses to pull down this bubble. So then Ruby rephrases and she was like, okay, so the bubble is just around you. So can you not see through the bubble? And as you can see from the images behind me, there are little gaps. So she looks forward to the 4 desks that are ahead of her, which there are supposed to be people, and there's nobody there. So then Ruby rephrases the question and she's like, okay, look to your right because that person should be there at your right, correct? And Lindy looks to her right and she sees something. So she turns around, she says she wants to get back to work, and then Ruby convinces her to drop the dot, which this image behind me is the dot, and or is the bubble, and the dot is the thing that projects it. So she drops it and she looks, and there's that giant slug devouring this person. Gets scared, opens up the dot in the bubble again, and they tell her she needs to go. Or well, they tell her she needs to go and get out of there because she's in danger. Yet again, you're in danger, girl. She shuts off the dot and bubble and figures out, hey, guess what? Without those directions that the bubble has been giving her, she can't actually walk. She's kind of stupid. She keeps running into her desk. So she has to turn it back on and she starts walking to the elevator. She gets to the elevator and there's a slug there. And then she kind of takes a step back, but the slug kind of just goes around her. And this is the second time, or third time technically, because there was one in her apartment, one in her office, and now the one in the elevator that has just passed her by. And the doctor's trying to figure out what's going on. Gets in the elevator, goes downstairs. They tell her to shut it off again. And she sees people just getting eaten, people walking by, not getting touched, everything. She goes and hides, pulls up her friend group, and most of them are gone, granted. And the doctor says, hey, you have to get out of the city. I can't get into the city because the security is too good. You have to get to these destinations I can send you, and then you have to put in codes. At this moment, Lindy's dot dies. Everybody else gets the codes to go where they're supposed to go, and Lindy just has to tell herself, move forward, turn right. She was her own personal Google Maps, which was kind of awkward because she still couldn't technically walk because, as Kyle was saying, when they ran into the child covered in cotton candy, she ran into a pole because she didn't have the awareness that she should walk around the pole. She ran into it twice, which was actually very funny. But she gets to the point where she's going to go at this plaza, and she's stumbling around and everything like that. And earlier in the episode, we were introduced to. Please help me if you remember his name.
Ricky September.
Ricky September. Thank you. We were introduced to Ricky September, who's the
Just for Ricky.
In this community. He does videos kind of like TikTok too. Itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini, and everybody loves him. Everybody's his follower. But we see him, and he guides her through these slugs, and then he says he just literally wakes up in the morning, uploads a video, such like Itsy bitsy teeny weeny, and then shuts it off and reads, learns, walks around the community and sees his space and everything like that. So he's the most intelligent person here. He gets her to this tunnel access way where they have to put in 55 codes, like number codes. And they get away from the slugs. Come to find out, the doctor just figures out that everybody who was in previously from this, they're going in alphabetical order. So the dot, which brings in the bubble, is kind of like an AI thing. And the dot has become sentient and has learned to hate these people because of their conversations. They're not learning anything like that. So he's putting in the codes. The dot ends up starting to attack Lindy. And then Ricky takes over while Lindy's putting in the dots. And she's putting in the codes and everything. And he's fighting it off. And in her not her first, because she's kind of been bitchy and catty throughout this entire episode, especially the first time she shoved the doctor away and kind of when she first talked to Ruby. She gets the door open and she's about to walk out. And then she tells the Dot that Ricky September changed his name from Coon. So it was Ricky Coon. So Ricky, who has helped her out this entire time, she sacrifices in order to get away, which was, I don't think, necessary. She gets down. She meets a bunch of people, one of her friends who actually walked away from their desk and wasn't enwrapped in this bubble. And they plan to leave the community, go out to the wilderness to save themselves. And this is the real instance where we get this rhetoric of this episode, which Ncuti Gatwa did mention that this was going to happen. Everybody he's talking to and trying to save, he's like, why don't you just come with me? I have a ship. I'll take you to a planet. You'll be safe, everything. And they look at him and literally tell him, we do not want to be contaminated. So we are walking away from you and we are leaving. So on my aspect, I was like, oh, this is a race episode. Which I didn't get. Like, I kind of got inklings. That end part where he's crying and screaming, which honestly, for me, was the best acting shoot he's done in this series.
Yes.
And this episode was most Doctor for me that he is given. What are your guys' thoughts on the second half of her going through the city, Ricky September, and that conversation at the end? And the reasoning why we brought JP into this is because I'm a person of color. JP is a person of color. And we just want to get that aspect as well. JP, what were your thoughts on this second half of the episode?
First of all, when I realized this was a racist episode, I even told producer Stephanie, I jumped up out of my bed, I stood up, jaw on the floor, and I just stood there, like grabbing my head, being like, oh my God. This completely took me like into left field. I was not expecting this, even though I kind of was. I was not expecting it. It took me completely by storm. Emotions were building up, especially in today's political climate. I do think that it was great that we were commenting, the episode commented on the fact that we are so wrapped up in our phones, cotton candy, that we don't see each other anymore. I did like the fact that people don't even hug anymore. Like, they're so wrapped up literally in their bubble. Do not pop my bubble. They're not even hugging anymore. They're not reading books. They're uneducated. All of their information is literally coming off of social media, which is very dangerous. And we're seeing that today. We are also seeing that they're commenting like, September was like, oh, I read books. And she even like the what's her name? The actress, the lead character in this. Yeah, I can't think right now.
Lindy.
Yeah, there you go, Lindy. She literally was like, oh, you walk really good. And I was like, what the heck? Okay, walks really good. I think that it was really great commenting that we are so dumbed down by technology and media that we can't even walk anymore without seeing like the real world, that we're just trapped and literally in our bubble. I did like that the AI became kind of like the enemy and not the slugs, because right now with the entire conversation happening with AI, it could possibly get very, very deadly, because AI, we don't know what the capabilities of it are anymore. We don't know what's going to actually happen. And with AI creating what's that?
It's going to be very terminating. It's going to be very terminating.
Yeah, it was kind of scary. Like, AI could get like enough knowledge to be able to kind of like wipe us out and do what they did in this episode. And then it wasn't even just like the slugs that they created. The AI itself, Little Dot, became literally like a bullet. It's the thing that killed Ricky September, and it was going after her. And I thought that it was like extremely rich that she sacrificed him to save herself. She's such a spoiled individual that she sacrificed him to save herself, which is very, very scary. And with that said, I thought it was also great that at the end of the episode, it was basically like a cult. And that it was commenting on having a black doctor and a blonde white companion this season. I was kind of wondering when I saw the casting what they were going to do with this, and this episode I feel like it explained exactly where I think this next season is going to go, and I think it's very, very smart.
Okay, no, I agree with you. That this was, besides 73 yards, which you haven't seen, but like besides 73 yards, I thought 73 yards was getting into the space of the Doctor. This got way more into the space of the Doctor.
Yeah.
My worry is, and I really wish they would have, I'm happy that they did the AI sentience in this season. I was hoping they were going to hold off, honestly, on the race card for Shuti, because he is the first person of color until season 2.
Oh,
And I am hoping that's not the arc they are going to give him.
I kind of like it though.
This thing. Like, I'm hoping not. But Julie, what did you think of the second half of the episode, and what have JP and I have just mentioned about the direction this episode seems to point?
Well, first of all, justice for Ricky September, because he
Thank
did
you.
not deserve his fate. I was so mad about that. I was like, what the heck? And also like he had a freaking crush on him too. So like it just like you said, it did not need to happen. Like that was completely but she's also dumb. So like that was apparently her solution. And like I guess that, but like I wanted to see more of him because I thought he was a great character. But you know, I guess they got to show how dumb Lindy actually is. Anyway, so that yeah. But yeah, also what you were saying earlier about how this is the most Doctor that Shooty's ever been, I 100% agree with that. That last bit at the end, like you said, he was acting his face off, and that plea for come with me was very Doctor. Like I was reminiscent of David Tennant, like, you know, like where he wants to help them so bad, and like he gets frustrated when they don't come because he has this solution. And you know, I feel like that's a very Doctor thing to do. So I liked that. And then what you and JP were talking about earlier, well, okay, just to clarify, when you said like the direction this is going, do you mean like, do you think that they're going to continue to, what you said about they're going to continue to go in the direction of playing the race card? Is that what you mean? Or what did you mean by that?
And yes, I do mean that, because so rumors online are the next episode, and it's kind of like a Bridgerton type-esque episode.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is also kind of a race card for Shuti.
Okay, I see.
And I'm hoping that's not the draw that they're trying to pull to get him to feel something. And I get it. Like, that's the easiest card to pull, but give him something more and actually to work with. And which is kind of frustrating. We won't know until next episode comes out, which is coming out later this week. But rumor boards have said that. And this has kind of started that.
Ooh, excuse me, sorry.
That thing.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they probably wanted to hit it as a general like topic, and I feel like, but because there's still this overarching plot that they have to get resolved or whatever, I'm thinking they won't focus too much on it, but maybe they will in the next episode because they're still kind of reeling off of the episode before. I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, and I didn't hate it either. I feel like it's something. I mean, I really liked this episode. But it's, yeah, I also wasn't expecting them to go there, and I mean, I do think that they were going to comment it on some point. I think you're right. Like, it could have been maybe later, but it was an interesting way to touch on it because I actually didn't catch it at first either. Because, like you said, it was like a little bit more subtle at first, and then towards the end, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
And seeing exactly like you said, it was subtle, and I think And I really I loved 73 yards. And like I said last week, like that's probably my favorite episode of the season so far. And then I saw this episode, and I actually think this episode is my favorite season because it was so well written. The doctor was the doctor, the companion was the companion.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing of it is the whole overarching was the AI thing.
Yeah.
But like in actual life, the underlying unspoken thing that you don't notice is the racism that goes on, which I thought was brilliant and beautifully done.
No, it's true. It's like the microaggressions, right? Like that is such a strong commentary on that because that is what happens in real life. So yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how that next episode plays out and where they go with it. I'm also really interested to see if they I feel like with these last two episodes, they didn't really get into why they were there and what the actual resolution was. So I'm interested to see if they tie into this whole overarching Ruby Sunday / possibly Toy Maker plot line, or if these, like you said, are just standalone episodes and they don't really have anything to do with anything. But I just remember thinking, I'm so curious, how they got to this planet in the first place, and then what they ended up yeah. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I feel like this was supposed to be a standalone episode because we've had episodes like Midnight, which I also brought up last week, and everything like that. That they just kind of end up on a planet.
Right. Yeah.
I did feel this one pushed it to the doctor being the doctor and having stakes.
Yeah.
Because like I said in previous weeks, I missed pre-therapy doctor.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be because unfortunately Millie Gibson is done in 2 episodes.
I know.
She's gone. They are replacing her second season with a new companion. So whatever happens, they either resolve her story or don't resolve her story. And I thought that was going to be the thing. So it's interesting that they're doing it now.
Yeah.
And then, Kyle, what were your thoughts on the end of this episode and the things that we all noticed at the end of it?
So, I watched this episode at work. First of all, I wonder how the AI would have reacted to the doctor, because AI famously have a problem with recognizing people of color, and AIs are inherently biased against people of color. So I wonder how the AI would have, I was reading about that, Google's AI and OpenAI, when they do facial recognition, there's a problem. They found problems and it's biased against it. So I wonder if maybe that's why he got locked out. I don't know, just when you said that, I was thinking about it. This episode, I watched this.
Well, before you start off, Lindy also says, and her friend and the other guy who's I'm going to be the leader, he literally says, I don't want you to get contaminated by this person.
Yeah.
So there is a racial component to this society that they have built. That Shuti's color is less than.
I watched this episode at work, and the stuff at the end hit me really, really hard, because I have observed people having those discussions, and I have observed the people of color who have done the labor to be listen, all I'm asking is for you to trust me, to recognize my humanity, to do this. And I've seen people online and in those discussions that just don't have the patience or the energy or whatever, just the humanity in them they don't have the humanity in them to even pay attention or hold a conversation.
The empathy.
Say what?
The empathy.
The empathy. They don't have the empathy to hold a conversation. And it's just, it made me really sad. I went out back and I went back to work, and I was just that is just, Nishuti really drove home the performance. That made me really emotional, thinking about how badly he just wanted to help people, and how people were the white people were just dumb. The people in Fine Time were just dumb, but they were dumb. I want to emphasize something about this though, because when I say dumb, I don't mean dumb like, oh, they weren't knowing what they were doing. I mean, maybe they kind of did, but that's dumb like a fox. Like they kind of knew what they were doing. Like they had a vague idea. They knew what was up. They were reacting like, sometimes there's certain kinds of people online that you encounter. I spend too much time online. Obviously, that's why I got slammed in with cotton candy. But there's certain kinds of people that like they'll sit there and they'll go, I'm ignorant, and or they'll sit and they'll do something and then be like, oh, I didn't notice. And no, it's a degree of selfishness, especially at the end when they're like, oh, we're gonna go be pioneers like our ancestors and take over the land. And I'm like, y'all about to walk out of the you're about to walk out and get eaten.
Like colonists.
Well, no, and I was right there with you, and I was just like, oh, Lindy's just stupid. Like, she parties all the and I know it's Pride Month, and I love you all, but it's kind of like a West Hollywood twink. Like early 20s West Hollywood twink. Like, they're just stupid and go along for the ride and don't figure out things until later. And for those of you out there who know, you know, because like it's a very specific thing. But I thought that's what she was. But in seeing her be smart enough to turn the AI on Ricky September, and then the conversation with the doctor a couple of times to where she like knew, I was like, they're not stupid.
They're not stupid. They know what they're doing. And can I also mention? Sorry, Eric. Can I also mention the doctor?
Hold on, right before you mention that, I do want to say what this episode gave to me. They were nepo babies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But the doctor's like I feel like a lot of motivation for the doctor's reaction to this whole like racist rants that they went on. Like the doctor's oath is to protect humanity and to protect civilizations. He's there to protect. The Time Lord's dedication to protecting life. That's like what they have to do. That is their solid life, like purpose in life. And when you take that away, like this episode did, they took that away from the doctor. They took away his existence because of how he looked.
The doctor's existence is saving other life forms and everything. Time Lords were not. The doctor himself, because we've seen it on Tower 1 with Christopher Eccleston when he was trying to save everybody in the tower the couple of times. We've seen it in David Tennant when he was trying to save everybody on Earth from pretty much everything. We've seen it in Smith. We've seen it in Capaldi. We've seen it in Jodie Whittaker and everything like that. And although the doctor like did the music thing, like planet Earth wasn't technically in danger with that. The only time that we've seen this with Nshuti kind of was the last episode of The Giggle. Like,
yeah,
that's a planet-wide thing. Everything else was kind of specific. The last episode was all Ruby and getting her life back, and it wasn't even like saving planet Earth because nothing was wrong with planet Earth. It was just her. And then this episode, it was another planet where we actually saw that there were stakes about it. I do want to ask, because now, and JP, I'm unfortunately not going to ask you this question because you haven't seen the other episodes of the season.
That's fine.
What do you feel of the overarching now that we've seen? And you watch the Christmas specials. I know you did watch the Christmas specials. What do you see about the overarching since we started back with Tennant into this last episode of Doctor Who, which we were discussing? How do you feel like the Doctor in the new Disney Plus era is going? We'll start with you on this one, Julie.
How do I feel it's going? I mean, listen, I don't know if it's just because I'm such a fan. Like, I think I'm always gonna like it. It's just because it's still in that world, and you've still got Russ T Davies and like Stephen Moffat writing on it. Even though Stephen Moffat isn't my favorite, but he has written a lot of good episodes. I will give that, and some not so good ones. But that's a whole other. Sorry.
No, I'm like, I mean, all of us are just like, yeah, not, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like,
You agree on that.
okay, but that's like I said, that's a whole other thing. But the point is that, like, it's still like they're bringing forth this world of the Doctor. They've carried it on to the next generation or whatever. So I so far am enjoying it. Do I think it's different from some of the past stuff? Yes. Like, it definitely feels different. Like you were saying, we've talked about this a couple of times, the Doctor Who for Dummies or whatever, kind of rushing through, trying to give everybody this like course in what the Doctor is. But I think that it's finding its groove, and especially with this episode, like I think like you said, he's finally becoming the Doctor. So I have high hopes for it. Like, I think they just needed to get their footing with this new platform and this new audience that they have, and I feel like we just gotta kind of wait it out and be patient. And I'm still gonna, like, so I'm still gonna be along for the ride. I'm still enjoying it. Like, I'm not sitting here like, like, yeah, is there issues with things here and there? Sure, but like there always is, right? So I don't know. And yeah, and I'm glad that he's like finding his, like, and Shooty's finding his groove. So
Oh no, and I completely agree with you. And JP, you haven't been here before, like, but the first 3 episodes of the season, I was like, it's Doctor Who for Dummies. You remember those, like, how to drill a hole in the wall for dummies books, the yellow ones? It was Doctor Who for Dummies, because they were just explaining a lot and there wasn't anything. Then 73 Yards happened, and I was just like, okay, this is interesting, because I thought Ruby was my problem, and she's actually not. And so I thought the Doctor was my problem. I feel like they were just waiting for this new generation now. So I'm going to take the Doctor Who for Dummies back, and I will honestly admit that was wrong. Kind of. They were waiting for mid-season to get people and give them that, because these last 2 episodes, I think, were brilliant and are taking us more into actual Doctor Who territory than what it's been. But also, and I do have a question for you, JP, but I'm going to go to Kyle first. Kyle, what have you thought about these first 5 episodes of Doctor Who and the Christmas specials and everything like that? How do you think it's progressed? Is it who? What do you want to change? Everything like that.
I think it's always gonna, the core elements of who are there. He's the funny man in the box. He travels the universe. He says some goofy jokes. So the core elements of it are there. I really like. Listen, as someone who knows a lot about Disney, I'm very surprised that this series is tackling all the things that it's been tackling, because I did not expect Disney to tackle those particular things. I just did not expect Disney to tackle, war profiteering and capitalism and like all of these different things. And especially with everything with, I did not expect the company to tackle the race card in this. I did not expect the company to tackle racism. So I am cautiously optimistic. I think I will be watching. I mean, I want to be watching. I want to keep watching. I want to keep talking about it. I react to them, but also I am concerned that they will hit people over the head, which goes back to what you were saying about the thing that you were talking about with focusing just on Nishooty and having it be the race card. I'm concerned they'll hit people over the head with that, because there is never, in my experience with Disney, there's only very recently been people of color involved in the decision making on these things, and I am concerned that there will be, and I've been this person, so I know what the concern of it looks like. I am concerned that there will be people going, we're going to make a statement and we're going to be allies and we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And we're going to do this. I'll own that I've been that person walking into the cotton candy of life. I've been that person. But I'm concerned that might be what blows it. It'll be some issue that they can't tackle, or that they tackle too hard in the wrong way, and it'll make people mad. But right now, I'm cautiously optimistic.
And I was cautionally optimistic in those first 2 episodes, and these last 2, like I said, I think are some of the best they've actually written, because I think they're so good. And actually, that's why I always want you here in my Doctor Who conversations, because you are a part of the mouse, and now we're a part of the mouse. And this is, and I'm going to ask this to you, and this is, that's why I wanted to get your opinion of this, and this is kind of a opinion on yourself, except for the episode. So, a lot of people, since the new Who has started on Disney, with Ncuti, I don't know, like, with Ncuti, have left the Whoniverse. They are no longer Whovians because they think that they have stemmed in the wrong direction, and that Disney has messed up so much with the direction they're going with it that they are no longer fans. I am a diehard fan. Obviously, we're here all together discussing all the episodes of the new Who together. I've had my issues, but I'm hopeful and everything like that. Like I said, the last 2 episodes for me have been the greatest. This episode alone, like I said, wish wasn't in the second season, but they brought it up sooner. And this is the first time I've seen him be the Doctor. What are your thoughts on people leaving the Whoniverse or being Whovians because of Ncuti? And I'm going to ask you this first, JP, because I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
So we also have to understand that Disney and the BBC are completely different programming networks. Yeah, this show and BBC may be under the Disney umbrella right now, but they still have their own ways of they're completely separate companies. So yeah, Doctor Who is now on Disney Plus. It doesn't mean that Disney is running the show. That's all I wanted to say with that issue. The thing with this is that there has been a lot of lashback, especially in American culture and American Whovians, that are going against the new Doctor because of his skin color. And that is just because before this, we didn't have a woman doctor. We didn't have a doctor of color. And now that we're seeing this, I think that the BBC and that the Whovian writers, they're doing a really great job at making sure that we are seeing a diverse cast of doctors, because the Doctor is basically immortal. Let's be real. We know that he only has a few lives, but he is immortal.
Anything and everyone.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that they're doing a really great thing. I didn't like the writing on Jodie's season. This episode, like I said, mentioned before, it is pulling me back in. And I am not totally upset about dealing with racism. And I do feel like this episode in particular was dealing with American racism and what's going on currently in American culture. And I do not feel, as a person of color, that we should pull punches anymore, especially with today's political climate and what's going on in the world, especially with the war going on in Pakistan and Israel. We should not be pulling. We should not be pulling. We should actually be more upfront, and we should be focusing more on that. Look at this. We have drag queens being banned in states here in America. We have a doctor, a black doctor, that people were like, oh, I'm not a Whovian anymore because of his skin color. You can use whatever excuse you want to, but I feel like all of these issues need to actually be out there. And I think that this episode in particular, because I haven't seen the other episodes quite yet, is doing just that. And it needs to be addressed. It really does need to be addressed. And I feel like it's a time in the world where we people of color cannot be silenced anymore. It's time for us to come up, because in this episode especially, they are the rich ones. They are the people, the Caucasians. They are the ones who are ruling this world. They are the ones who are basically like damning themselves, and they're not listening to anybody else's point of view. And I think that this episode really commented on that very, very well. And I'm kind of very happy that they didn't pull the punches. And I'm kind of thinking at this point with this episode that this is going to be touched on quite a few times during this season. And I'm going to be watching it now because I'm very interested to see where it goes. I don't think this might be a standalone episode. I think it actually might kind of tie into future episodes. And I really did like that this, where the companion, what's her name again? Sorry.
Ruby.
Ruby
Ruby
Sunday.
I like that Ruby kind of came in as the white savior complex to kind of protect the person of color. But then he was able to take it over in the end and actually prove that he actually was the one who was in charge.
And I completely agree with you. Like, I am glad. And you mentioned something you were talking. Actually, Kyle mentioned something when they were talking. I actually didn't get that Boom was about like war profiteering. I think I did, but like once you said it, I was like, oh yeah. Still my least favorite episode, by the way. But anyway, I think they were brilliant in bringing this episode out when they did because of the month it was going into.
Yes, Juneteenth and Pride Month.
Correct. Like this month is all about acceptance of whoever you are, whoever you love, whatever color you are, African American, like pride and everything. Like it's all about acceptance and love. And so this first episode starting on this month was brilliantly planned, which you pointed that out to me, JP, and what you were talking about. Julie, what are your thoughts on
people leaving the universe?
Yes, like Hooniverse and everything like that, because it is a very big topic. Because not only are people from the United States leaving the Hooniverse now, it's all across Europe. Like people who've been fans since the 50s, which I mean, granted, it was 50s, get it, prejudice. But like now that Shooty's the doctor and it's more progressive, they are also saying it's too woke. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like too woke is a word that people throw around far too much these days.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. No, it's in several articles. It's been in several articles across the globe that is pissing me off.
Which this episode comments about, like they're not woke, and like you get like and you get now this episode's being woke, and like it's all of a sudden it's an issue. Sorry, Julie.
No, it's fine. No, it's frustrating. I've been seeing that word just thrown around too much. To use it as such a negative insult, first of all, when half of these people don't even know what it means. And they don't know what it means, because this is not that. This is like, I mean, so what this is, in my opinion, is this is a person existing. This is a person that is playing a role that has existed for a long time, and he looks different than the other people who have played this role. But like, so that's the thing though. Everybody keeps saying everything is woke when they replace a character or they add a new character in that is someone of color, basically. Like, I'm like, these people are just existing and acting in a role. Like they I don't know. That's how I feel. Like they're just acting in a role like that anybody should be able to play. Like anybody should be able to play the doctor. Like, because the doctor is somebody who can, morph or sorry, what's the, why can't I think of the word, regenerate. into regenerate into anything, literally any person. And like, why should it be such a shock that it's, you know, a Black person or a woman? Because people said they were gonna leave the Whoniverse when Jodie was the Doctor too. Like a lot of people. Like there was so much hate for Jodie. Which, by the way, I loved Jodie. Okay, I thought she was great. I thought she took on that role just how she should have. You know, the writing wasn't her problem, but
I agree with you.
I really liked her episodes too. But yeah.
Jodie was great. The writing was shit.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it though. I still enjoy it. Again, I always enjoy it. I always enjoy it. You know, I mean, like I said, that's the case with a lot of things. Is there problems maybe here and there? Yeah, but I'm going to enjoy it because this is my world that I love. So anyway, but yeah, like people just like, I just feel like there's people like anytime something's different and changes from something that they're used to, like when they're used to something for a really long time and all of a sudden it changes to something they're not used to, they automatically are going to hate it. They're automatically going to say it's woke. They're automatically going to say like, you know, that it's the wrong direction, that it's, I just, all of those words get thrown around. And I don't know. I just can't take those people seriously because I feel like if they didn't understand like that's kind of what this whole show is about accepting everybody and stuff, then they shouldn't have been fans in the first place. So I mean, same thing with like Star Wars and some of these other fandoms, like people threatening to like leave. Okay, there's the door. Bye. Why were you here in the first place? I don't know. That's this is kind of a rant. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that. Like
no, like I completely agree with you. And like you brought up when Jodie was in her era of Who, and being the Doctor and everything like that, people were like, "Oh, it's a woman, we're gonna leave," but they didn't.
Right?
No, they don't. They never do.
It's a lot of empty threats.
I think it was because they pulled a very cis white woman to do it. I'm not hating on Jodie, whatever, because I thought she could have, like, and she was a wonderful Doctor. Her writing was just horrible. Like the storylines were kind of a crap, which was unfortunate for her because she could have been brilliant. Could have been like on my status with David Tennant, because I think he's honestly the most brilliant Doctor I've seen, or like he's my favorite Doctor, honestly. I always say Dr. Donna because that's my favorite couple. But
Donna.
but they had issue with that, and they were threatening to leave with her, but with Shuti, they are actually leaving.
Do we know that though?
Listen. For every person who says that they are leaving, who actively posts about it and blogs about it and walks down the street saying, I'm leaving, I'm never going, I'm doing this. Listen, I will believe that people are leaving, sure. But I also know that those same people end up showing up at Disneyland 5 minutes later wearing all their little t-shirts, even though they say they're boycotting the park. Boo Disney, boo Disney, boo Disney. And then 5 minutes later, they're there in their American flag, Mickey, racist, blue line matter, whatever shit, wandering around, eating cotton candy and talking to all the people that they hate.
And let's be real. Doctor Who has been around for what, like 50, 60 years. And I feel like from what I've heard from you guys, this is the reset. They're going after a different demographic because you can't always stay with the same demographic. You have to pull in other people.
Right.
And maybe the other demographics are pulled, like they're just like tapped out.
So at this point in our lives with Who, even though it's been on for 60 years, they ended in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reboot of that was the American Doctor, which was just a movie. And then they came back in 2004 with Christopher Capaldi or Christopher Eccleston. That was the reboot, and now they're rebooting while the series is still going with
they always reboot. Time changes.
Yeah. Well, it's
that's how it's been.
I agree with you. No, hold on, wait. I agree with you. There's always an adjustment to the new doctor.
Exactly.
Nobody is full on for the new doctor when the new doctor comes. You have to learn his new mannerisms. You have to learn his new character, even though there's aspects of the old doctors.
Mm-hmm.
This now, since 2004, that's 20 years ago.
That's
Is
2
it-
decades ago.
Yes, or 20 years ago. Yes, 2 decades. 2 decades.
Yeah.
It's a completely new channel.
They're
And everything.
rebranding, and it's smart.
They're rebranding it.
It's
But,
smart.
and kind of like what Kyle was saying, the rebranding and the people who are leaving, they are also marketing to this new generation who's probably not into Who, which was initially why I said in the first 3 episodes, it's Doctor Who for dummies.
As they're
Because they were
rebranding.
teaching them.
Yeah.
And now we've gotten into Who.
That's wonderful that like we have like they're teaching this new generation, because the reason why this show has been around for so many decades is because they always rebrand. They know what they're doing. It's very, very smart. And that's what I love about the series. Like, and now having to rebrand, we have to like relearn our doctor knowledge. And I think that's great. Like from what I've heard from you guys, obviously I need to go back and like watch it again. But I think it's just like to keep our story and the universe that we love and this individual and these companions close to our heart, they're going to have to do it to keep the story going. And like, honestly, like I'm all for it.
No, and I'm all for it too. And I'll get to you in quite a second, Kyle, because I see your hand raised.
Oh no, I was.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle. Go.
No, Eric, you need to say your thing because I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at something else.
So I completely agree with you. Like this is a new rebrand, and like they have to learn this. But if you look at the last 60 years of Who, probably maybe kind of not the first season because that was kind of racist. They've always been kind of progressive, pushing the envelope, pushing you to think outside of your box. So it dumbfounds me that now that we have Unshuti, that people are leaving because of him, because they've always done that.
But they're gaining as well. They're getting a new generation.
No, like when Ajma Freeman came in to be the companion, she was one of the first African American companions, and they had issue with that, but they stayed.
Exactly.
And it was kind of the same thing. And they were like, we're threatening to leave, but they didn't. And so now that we're bringing up topics of like now with like AI and race, like microaggressions and everything like that, now they want to leave because they obviously have an aggression towards him.
But
like I said, I love him. He wasn't the doctor for me until these last 2 episodes. Because he wasn't honestly the doctor yet. He was lighter. He, like I said, pre-therapy doctor I enjoy. Post-therapy doctor, he was kind of light and like not as intense. But before you say this, JP, Kyle, what did you want to say?
Well, honestly, I was just if there's a lot of there's a lot of things that Disney has done wrong with a lot of different things on regards to a lot of different stuff, but the JP is 100% correct that sometimes you do have to kind of toss the old guard aside and accept that those are people who are, and this is not dissing anybody, this is just a fact of life. Those are people, if they want to go, they can go. And one of the things that Disney has done that's good, even if they are just a distributor, I would argue that being attached to a name like that, people would be like, oh, maybe we should do something with that. But sometimes they do just have to go. And one of the things that Disney has done right, especially recently, is that whether or not people get upset about certain things, they're just going to go ahead and do it anyway. The Tiana, the not to compare it to the park because I live at the park, but the Tiana's Bayou re-theme is one of those, and everybody is just like, everybody was dyed in the wool, save Splash Mountain, save Splash Mountain. We'll leave Disney if it's Splash Mountain. And, you can't even, basically, it's just, there is no desire to move forward there's no desire to move forward, and people put 1,001 different names and reasons and will try and justify it. And the only thing that they don't realize is that they are afraid, and they are continuing to propagate systems that feed their fear and feed a lack of empathy. And I have to applaud Disney perpetually for being like, you know, are we doing this to make money? Sure, but building a new audience is worth.
Kyle, that is exactly what I was going to say.
I will say that. I will say Disney now is let us make money.
Yeah.
But also, whatever they
They've always done
decide,
that.
they are going to push and make money off of it.
Mhm.
Look at the Princess and the Frog and them changing to Tiana's Bayou and everything like that. Look at Encanto. Look at all those. They are going to push to make money because that is where the world is going.
I'm sorry.
It's rebranding. It's refocusing their situations. It's bringing new people.
The ghost of Walt rose from the grave and was like, "Wait a minute, people of color, brown people have money. We need that money too."
The ghost of Walt has been exercised years ago, girl. Come on. But hold on. Wait, I do want to jump into the chat because I have not. As we're talking, let me give me a second. Taro Tommy has redeemed Take a Bite from everybody, so
I'm out of food.
Okay.
Invincible Bites.
Invisible
Okay.
Bite?
So here's where it gets into something. So Timspiration has said, low key, I feel like it's a Karen saying, I'm not going to shop here anymore. With the fans leaving.
Pretty much.
Which also.
Then we see you 5 days later, Karen. Then we'll see you like tomorrow, the next day.
Correct.
It's the corporate American mentality that if you complain, you're going to get something for free.
Correct. But they also say, on the other hand, it's more serious. It's a more serious issue than retail. I have this weird conundrum in my head where I'm like, don't make this the issue. It should be an issue that's ... a lot of things, but that comes from a place of compassion and privilege. If it's rubbing that many people the wrong way, maybe they shouldn't spearhead with that. Like, this is now getting into the thing of they are poking the bear and the bear is getting mad. But do we really need that bear? And this is going to be the last question. Do we need the bear of people being hateful now that we're in this new generation? We'll start with you on this one, Kyle.
No. Sorry. I know the population of individuals who started with, you know, sometimes you just got to take credit. You created something that's great. Once you put it out into the world, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the people who are going to come after you. And you should be grateful for the fact that those people have chosen to continue it. And as I always say, and I stand by this because because I keep having people come up and they keep complaining about how all these things are changed. Like, this is not my childhood. And I said, listen, the day that they come to your house, look you in the eye, pin you down and brainwash you so that you forget your childhood, the day that that happens, and then they take everything away from you, that's when I'm going to start getting worried. But that's not happening, and it'll never happen. And even then, it's perfectly possible. I have a friend who we ran into this situation with Black Canary when they replaced her for Harley Quinn. She loved Black Canary in the movie. I had a poster at the time on my wall that was comic Black Canary, who is white. And she was just like, Black Canary's white? No, she's not. She's black. And I'm like, no, she's white in the comics. And she said, oh, and went on with her day. See, so the obvious answer is no. Bye. Sorry, there's more money coming.
But I agree with you, because the change of Black Canary to being an African American from what in the comics she was white, that was like a minor change, that people weren't going to notice because she wasn't a huge character. Like, she was big, but she wasn't Superman, Wonder Woman, like there's comics and everything like that, but like the majority of them aren't going to know. This is like a big, like, oh. But what are your thoughts on this, Julie?
I say poke the bear. Just keep poking it. I mean, it's a bear that needs to be poked. I look, it's 2024. Like it shouldn't be a question of whether people should be able to be cast in roles. Like anybody should be able to be cast in, roles. Like I don't see the issue with it, and that's where we're at now. And like if people can accept that, I mean, it's change has always happened, and it's always been hard for some people to particularly accept, but it's going to happen whether they like it or not. So and we're just I just feel like that's where we are. We're in 2024. Like there's no reason why like you can't cast someone of color, why you can't cast a woman, why you can't cast a, even like a disabled person or whatever in different roles. Like I see no reason why that shouldn't be happening just on the regular. So I don't poke the bear because we're clearly not at the point where we need to be yet. So keep poking it, keep getting to that point, where we need to be. That's how I feel.
No, I completely agree with you. Poke that bear. Like, now I'm just also thinking about the Bear TV show, but poke the bear.
Don't watch that.
JP, what are your thoughts about like poking the bear and this fandom now?
So I'm currently going through that like with my MFA program, where we're having to battle out like our diverse voices. And we are basically being told that we have to be very careful as to what we say and what we do and what we write. Because we honestly, when you look at everyone who is in charge and the people who are producing and directing, like Doctor Who, you have to be very, very careful as how you go out there and you market yourself. I do feel like it's a very, very fine line at this point still, but I do say that we have those voices. And as long as we continue to write and act and do things like Doctor Who's doing this season, I feel like we're just going to continually like be able to go out there and like poke the bear per se. But it's only going to like make sure that people are going to be represented. We're going to be pulling in new markets because I can guarantee before probably this season, there probably wasn't a POC following of Doctor Who because of their past. Let's be real. And now they're following them in, and now we're roping them in. And I think that's an actual beautiful, beautiful thing. So we can poke the bear, but I think that that's it's too aggressive to say that. I do say that we got to keep pushing the boundaries. I do say that we got to keep speaking up. We got to keep doing what we're doing at this point in Hollywood, especially because Disney's buying up everything, Kyle. And I actually was going to say, like, if Disney can rebrand, even in Disneyland, with taking Splash Mountain and taking the Song of the South away because they knew that they were wrong in the past, and now they're making it Tiana's Bayou, it's still going to sell. People are still going to go to Disneyland, just like Doctor Who. Just because we took away a normally white, perceived white doctor, we have a black doctor now, but people are going to come in. People are going to still support this, and I think that's absolutely great.
Can I make a point really quick about people of color fans? One of my former roommates is probably the biggest Doctor Who fan that I know, and he was a black man. And honestly, no, he was a black man. And it really does come down to the empathy of the thing, because when you see people who can see themselves in a role or in a character, when you see people who play a character who represents who they are, and honestly, you know what meant a lot to me? The fact that Nashuti is dressing in a non-binary fashion. Like, I see that.
Yeah.
Please, thank you. I see that. But thinking about how happy Joe's going to be with having, with being able to cosplay as the doctor that he looks like, that's really, and it's sometimes, and I also want to say something. Julie, and I'm sorry, I don't, because I love you. You know, we've worked on a lot of stuff. You're great. Sometimes, you know, anybody can play any role, and then there's some roles that need to be played by people of certain groups, and except unless you're white, because honestly, that's nothing. That's not even a group. But like, if you're black and you need to play black character, that's just, I'm sorry. Like, if you're gay, you need more people. There needs to be more representation on all counts.
No,
So
and I know, I completely agree with you. There is the inclusivity that Doctor Who is bringing in with Jodie Whittaker being a woman, Ncuti Gatwa being a African American gay man, kind of non-gender specific, everything like that. They are trying to include everybody, which I appreciate and understand, and I am enjoying this direction that they are going in. Unfortunately, guys, we are out of time. I know, and everybody out there who's watching, this was a heavy conversation, and we can keep this going, but we are out of time, and I want to thank you guys for being here so much. Julie, final thoughts, and where can everybody find you out there?
Okay, real quick, I just want to address what Kyle said. No, I guess I misspoke. I totally agree with you at what you just said. Yes, no, anybody should be able to play any role unless it is dictated, like you said, that it needs to be specific because of their backstory, because of their... I'm an actor myself, so I wholeheartedly agree with what you just said. I just implied that, but I guess it wasn't implied enough.
I might have missed it. I'm sorry,
No, you're fine. No, but I totally am with you on that. Yeah, no, if something specifically dictates that that person needs to be of a specific race or gender or color, whatever, no, that's definitely not okay for somebody else to play that role. But I think a role that doesn't have those stipulations, 100% anybody should be able to play it. That's what I meant. Yeah.
No.
I misunderstood.
Just wanted to clarify that.
And I completely agree with everything like that. It's specifically, but now we've gotten into this area, especially like with Bridgerton, to where they should be specific races. They're bending the molds and doing them outside and building this whole universe on itself. Yeah. Because we are not in the era that anybody needs to be anything. You could be whatever you want. And that's beautiful and wonderful. But again, we're running out of time. Julie, where can they find you out there on socials?
Yes, I am on the Insta at JRaelyn, JRAELYN. You can find some adventures that I like to do on TikTok at JRaelady, JRAELADY.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate you for being here for this actually kind of really tough conversation that we've just had this last 40 minutes. Kyle Wood, where can they find you out there?
Real quick, Julie, I'm sorry. I'll talk to you later. The point I want to make is you can find me on TikTok, Caroline, CAROLING _cosplay. You can find me on Instagram at Caroline Arts, CAROLING Arts. If you want to hear my Disney rants and things about all that stuff, you know, I'm going to try and use the Bird app less, but I miss the Bird app. I love the Bird app so much.
The Bird app was so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, JP, where can they locate you out there?
Alrighty. So you can locate me on social media at JP Rapozo, RAPOZO JP, like Joseph Paul. And final comments. This was really great. I'm glad that we actually got to do this, and I'm glad that like one of my favorite fandoms is like actually like taking steps to be all inclusive.
Agreed. I agree. This inclusivity that they're bringing in from the last couple of seasons and everything like that, and now just building is so great. I am your host again, Erric Ramirez, and you can find me on all socials at Heartless7. That's HARTL 3SS7. But also, thank you for joining us for discussing episode 5 and the season and everything of Doctor Who. If you want to continue this conversation, you can join us on our Discord and all of our social medias at Nom Talk Network. Shout out to JP, Julie, and Kyle for being here. But also, thank you guys for being here. And until next time, happy Pride and have a nomorific day, everybody.
Yay, happy Pride!
Bye.